Good. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
We're going to get ready to start our service at this time. We are going to have our prayer, and then immediately afterwards, we will go into our lesson. We're going to ask everyone to stand as we begin to turn towards the east and look towards Yashra'al, and we're going to ask our key, slow-mo, yeah, you lead us in prayer. Look like you want to pray.
My prayer right now?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Dear Aliyahu, I come before your throne, just thank you and praise you for another week. Thank you for letting us be able to make it here safely. I pray that you keep us for next week. Pray that with Pesach coming up, that we have a great time next Shabbat or next week for Pesach, and that we remember to keep it set apart. I pray that you write upon whatever you have written upon Moreh's hearts, that it connects with us, and that you write upon our hearts the words that you've given him. Thank you so much in your son's precious set apart name. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom once again, fam.
Shabbat shalom.
At this time, we're going to go ahead and get into our lesson. And today's lesson we're going to continue with the theme and topic of the Lamb that we've been previously doing for the last 3-4 weeks now. But today we're going to go into circumcision. And circumcision is an important topic because we need to see how circumcision is associated with Yashra'al. Now, when dealing with circumcision, one thing we need to look at and pay close attention to is the covenant of Abraham. The covenant of Abraham is very important because when we look at something, you got to remember, during the time of Abraham, it's very important. It's imperative that we understand that what they did not have is a Levitical order or priesthood. Very important. I'm going to say it again. What they did not have is a Levitical order or Levitical priesthood. And when we look at this, that should also cause us or bring to mind, if they didn't have a Levitical priesthood or Levitical order, what system of priest was in play at that time?
The firstborn?
Huh?
Would it be the firstborn?
No, I don't know what you're getting at. Yeah, that's a good answer, but Brother Zach said the Melchizedek order. You had Melchizedek, and there are righteous men that were a part of that priestly order. You have the Melchizedek order or the Melchizedek priesthood versus the Levitical priesthood. Very important. So let's go read something. Let's go over to Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, and we're going to read at the 4th verse. Jeremiah 4:4. We're going to ask our brother Jacob to get that.
Right. Jeremiah 4, verse 4. Circumcise yourselves to Yahuwah, and take away the foreskins of your heart, ye men of Yehuda and inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire, and burn the none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings.
Okay then. Aliyahu, it says, circumcise yourselves to Yahuwah and take away the what? The foreskins of your heart. Did everybody get that?
Mm-hmm.
Circumcise yourself and take away the foreskins of your heart. Now that's saying something right there. Take away the foreskins of your heart. Now let's go over to Genesis, the 17th chapter. Genesis 17. And we're going to ask Brother Jacob to read. Matter of fact, let's go to Genesis 15 first. Let's go to Genesis 15. We'll start at the first verse.
Genesis 15, verse 1. After these things, the word of Yahuwah came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Yahuwah, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is the Eleazar of Damascus. And Abram said, Behold to me, thou hast no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of Yahuwah came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in Yahuwah, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am Yahuwah that brought thee out of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Yahuwah, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years. Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Now of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day Yahuwah made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, and the river of Euphrates. The Canaanites and the Kenizzites, and the Kadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
Okay, that's good right there. So what we have here, we have Abraham who had entered into a covenant with Yahuwah. Now, what took place here, a question was asked. What was that question? What did Abraham ask Yahuwah? Go back up to verse 2 and read.
Genesis 15, verse 2. And Abraham said, Yahuwah, what wilt giveth me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is the Eleazar of Damascus?
Okay, then. He said, what? Yahuwah, what would you what?
What would you give me?
What would you give me, seeing that I go childless? So a question was asked. So if that question is asked, there needs to be an answer. And what was the answer? You remember the mentioning of the stars?
Yep.
What did you say?
He said that if you can you can't pretty much you can't number them. But
Right. He promised him his descendants would be as the stars in heaven, if you can number them. But so he answered him in so many words, but when does this answer come into fruition? Just hold that thought right there. Now let's go to Genesis 17. Abide, I'm going to let you read Genesis 17. We're going to start at verse 1.
Genesis or Bereshit 17:1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said, Unto him I am Yahuwah Elohim, walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and Yahuwah talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a Elohim unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. And Yahuwah said unto Abraham, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised.
Okay, every man child among you shall be circumcised. Go ahead.
And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you.
Very important. He said, and ye shall what? Circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token or a sign of what? The covenant between me and you. Circumcision is not the covenant. Circumcision is a sign or entrance where? Into the covenant. Now, let's go back to Bereshit 14. Bereshit 14, the 14th chapter. Let me see where Bereshit, the 14th chapter, and let's start around, this is 14, da, 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 da. Let's start around, we can start from the first verse. We'll just start from verse 1.
Who's reading?
You.
Okay. Genesis 14:1. And it came to pass in the days of Ephraim, king of Shinar, Erod, king of Elazar, Cheldolomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and Berisha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shember, king of Zeboim, and king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the salt sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth, Carnaim, and Zuzims, and Ham, and Emims, and Shaveh, Kirathim, and the Horites in the Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to in Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the countries of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazetomer. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim, with the Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and the Tidal, king of nations, and the Amraphel, king of Shinar, and the Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. And they that remained fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Enor. And these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Habah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Elohim.
Read that again.
And the Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Elohim.
And Melchizedek, king of Shalom, or Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High. Does bread and wine sound familiar?
Yeah.
What is bread and wine a sign of? So what?
The Last Supper.
The Last Supper, or what?
Covenant.
A covenant meal.
Covenant
Thank you.
meal.
A covenant meal. Go ahead, read.
And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High Elohim, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High Elohim, which he hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave them tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand unto Elohim, unto Yahuwah, the Most High Elohim, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou should say, I have made Abram rich. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion.
So what we have here, we have Abraham, who is met by Melchizedek, with bread and wine, which signifies as a sign of a covenant meal. You have a covenant meal, then you have Yahuwah himself speaks to Abraham, and before Genesis 17, what has already happened? He has already blessed Abraham, and out of his mouth he's what? Sworn the blessings over Abraham. So from that point on, no matter what happens, because of the promise he made to Abraham, it stands. No matter what Israel do, those promises that he promised Abraham, they stand. But what's the importance of all of that? What's the one thing you notice about Abraham when he received all these promises? Remember, these promises were what? Pre-circumcision? Under a Melchizedek order? Do y'all think Melchizedek was circumcised?
Yeah.
Do y'all think you do?
No.
Yeah, he was circumcised. But I guarantee you it wasn't the foreskin of his flesh. Do you think Adam was circumcised?
No.
Do you think Noah was circumcised? Now, all of this is for a reason. But y'all don't believe that the Melchizedek order just started with Abraham, right? You know that would have been all the way down. This is my point for bringing this out. So when we read in Bereshit, when he put Abraham to sleep, you know both parties were supposed to walk those pieces. And whoever walked the pieces, what was supposed to happen to them? They would die the same death or take on the same death as what happened to those meats that they walked between. So, what happened when Abraham fell asleep? Or when he was put to sleep?
He saw the great horror.
Huh?
He saw horror.
He saw horror, but what happened? Did he wake up and say, okay, I need to walk these pieces?
No.
But what happened? Somebody had to walk them. Y'all don't remember reading what happened with those pieces and what went between the pieces. Smoking what?
Furnace, between the pieces.
Lamp. Furnace.
That was you that walked him.
That was Hamashiach Yahushua. He walked those pieces. He walked those pieces for both parties. Automatically knowing that if this covenant should be broken, he's going to have to die that death. It's solely on him. Very important.
He was the mediator right there.
Huh?
He was the mediator right there.
Yep. He did that knowing that he was going to have to die that death if Yashra'al didn't uphold their end. Or if Abraham's seed or descendants didn't hold their end of that. So, circumcision is the token or entrance into the covenant. But entrance into what? What was the covenant about? What was to be given?
Canaan,
The land of Canaan. The land of Canaan. Let's go back over and read Exodus 19. Let's go to Exodus 19. Keep in mind, no circumcision during the Melchizedek order, all the way up until Abraham. What? When we begin to read, let's go read Exodus 19 right quick. Let's go over there. All of this was planned from the very beginning. Exodus 19. Slow, I'm going to ask you to continue reading if you don't mind.
That's one. What verse?
We'll start at verse 1.
Okay. Exodus 19 and 1. In the third month, when the children of Israel, Yashra'al, were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Yashra'al camped before the mountain. And Moses went up to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Yashra'al, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto a kingdom of priests, and a set apart nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Yashra'al. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which Yahuwah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuwah hath spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, and that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day Yahuwah will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves, that he go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. For whosoever toucheth the mount shall be surely put to death. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned, and shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, Be ready against the third day, come not out your wives. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning, that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud came upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceedingly loud, so that all the people that were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with Yahuwah, they stood at nether part of the mountain, at the nether part of the mountain. And the mounts and Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because Yahuwah descended upon it in fire. And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and Yahuwah answered him by a voice. And Yahuwah came down upon the Mount Sinai, on the top of the mount, and Yahuwah called upon Moses up to the mount, and Moses went up. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, Go down, charge the people, lest they break through the Yahuwah to gaze, lest they break through unto Yahuwah to gaze, and many of them perish. Let the priests also, which come near to Yahuwah, sanctify themselves, lest Yahuwah break forth upon them. And Moses said unto Yahuwah, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou charged us, saying, Set bounds about the mount, and sanctify it. And Yahuwah said unto him, Away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Yahuwah, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people and spake unto them.
Okay, and so what you have now, you have Israel. Now you have a promise that was made to Abraham being fulfilled. Remember, the promise was to go to, the covenant would be passed down from Abraham to his seed. Was it not transferred to Isaac, then Jacob, and then Israel? So what you have at Sinai, what's taking place? The fulfillment of the promise by way of what?
Yahuwah coming down.
Yahuwah coming down and doing what? Betrothing Israel. You have Israel now entering into a covenant. But did anybody know how many years it had been since Abraham was promised the blessings? It had been 430 years. Why is that important? Because we're going to hear that come up again. Remember, everything was about the promise. He promised Abraham something. And that promise took place when Abraham was not what?
Alive.
He was alive. He wasn't circumcised. He was circumcised, but not in the foreskin. But what was Abraham circumcised?
In the heart.
He was circumcised in the heart before what?
You.
Before the foreskin. He was circumcised in the heart before the foreskin of his flesh. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So, let's go look at something. Let's turn to Joshua 5:5. Joshua 5:5. Read it for you guys, so.
2 seconds. All right. Joshua 5:5. Now all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness by way as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised. Keep going.
That's good right there.
Okay.
All the people that came out of where?
Egypt, right?
All the people that came out of Egypt, they were what? Circumcised. But what did it say about the others?
The people that were born were not.
The ones that were born in the wilderness were not circumcised. Why weren't they circumcised? How long were they in the wilderness? How long were they in the wilderness before they entered into Canaan? 40 years. So that's 40 years of no one being circumcised. Remember, Passover was to be commemorated, right? And requirements for Passover. You had to be circumcised, remember? Pesach was attached to the Abrahamic covenant. And it required circumcision. So, you got 40 years of Israelite men not doing what?
Circumcision.
So they would totally be what? Transgressing or going against what the law states. That's 40 Passovers in rebellion or disobedience. That's 40 Sukkots, Yom Teruahs. And how many Sabbaths is that? That's a lot. So what did they know about circumcision that they were not circumcised anymore? They had to, say that again, go to.
Because they know they didn't stick by the covenant.
They know they didn't stick to that covenant. And one thing you cannot do is you cannot circumcise to a broken covenant. That's key. You cannot circumcise to a broken covenant. You just can't. Because what are you entering into? Because the Most High had already laid out the groundwork. He said circumcision was a token of the covenant. If circumcision is an entrance to the covenant, if you break the covenant, what are you entering into? There's nothing to gain entrance into because it's broken. We know that by Jeremiah. Let's go to Jeremiah 31 and 31.
Jeremiah 31:31. Behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Yashra'al, and with the house of Yehudah.
I will make a what?
A
New covenant. Or a what? Renewed covenant with the house of Yashra'al of Israel and the house of Judah. Now here's the key right here. Go ahead.
Continue.
Yes.
Thus saith Yahuwah, the people which we left out the sword found grace in the wilderness.
31.
Oh, my bad. Okay, there we go. Go to 32?
Yes.
Okay. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt.
Stop right here. Not according to what? The covenant I made with their father. I shall make a new covenant or a renewed covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah.
Right.
Operative word here. Not like the covenant I made with their what?
Father.
Their fathers. Not like the covenant I made with their fathers. When I took them by the hand and did what? And led them out of Egypt. That's important. Making a new covenant or renewing the covenant with them, but not like the covenant I made with their fathers. Keep that in mind. Keep also in mind that the promises were made to Abraham uncircumcised. What did I just say? The promises were made to Abraham while he was what? Uncircumcised. Under what priesthood? The Melchizedek. Very important. Okay. So they went 40 years in the wilderness, uncircumcised. Then when Joshua began to circumcise the people. Let's go back to Joshua 5:5.
Joshua 5:5. Now all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness, by the way, as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised. Continue. For the children of Yashra'al walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people that were men of war, which came out of Egypt, were consumed, because they had obeyed not the voice of Yahuwah, unto whom Yahuwah sware that he would not show them the land, which Yahuwah sware unto their fathers, that he would give us land, a land that floureth with milk and honey. And their children whom he had raised up in their stead, them Joshua circumcised, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not circumcised them by the way.
They had not circumcised them by the way. Now circumcision had become what? A right to enter into the land that was promised. Now all of a sudden, circumcision is fixed to be what? Instituted again for a right to enter into the land, or entrance into what? The promise, which was Canaan, or the inheritance. Canaan is the inheritance by way of the promise made to Abraham, that his seed would be abundant, more numerous than the stars. And did he not tell Abraham? He said, the ground that you're standing on, he told him to look in all directions, as far as you can see, even Canaan. Where he was standing, he said, this shall be what? Given to you and your seed for an inheritance. All of that's important. So now, let's go over to...
Yeah, so up under the priest, up under two different priesthood, you got the circumcision going up under the Levitical priesthood, and Melchizedek don't have one. So right now, we up under Melchizedek priesthood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what Hamashiach came to do.
Yeah.
This is the renewed covenant. He's not talking about renewing nothing under the law or under a Levitical order. He's talking about renewing something that was under the Melchizedek order, or Melchizedek order. Very important. Let's go over to Romans, the 4th chapter, verse 9 and 10. Romans, the 4th chapter, verse 9 and 10.
Romans 4, verse 9 and 10. Cometh this blessedness then upon the circumcision only, or upon the uncircumcision also? For we say that faith was reckoned to Abraham for righteousness. How was it then reckoned, when he was in circumcision or in uncircumcision? Not in circumcision, but in uncircumcision.
Let's read that again. Romans 4, verse 9.
Cometh this blessedness then upon the circumcision only, or upon the uncircumcision also? For we say that faith was reckoned to Abraham for righteousness. How was it then?
Okay, it said, cometh this blessedness then upon the circumcision only, or upon the uncircumcised also? For we say that faith, operative word, faith, was reckoned to Abraham for what?
Righteousness.
Righteousness. Faith was reckoned to Abraham for righteousness. It said, how was it then reckoned when he was in circumcision or uncircumcision? When this righteousness was imputed to Abraham, was Abraham circumcised or was he uncircumcised? And the answer is, and he received the sign of circumcision, a seal of righteousness of the faith which he had yet been uncircumcised, that he might be father of all them that believe, though they be not circumcised, that righteousness might be imputed unto them also. and the father of circumcision to them who are not of the circumcision only, but who also walk in the steps of faith of our father Abraham, which he had been yet uncircumcised. Now you see faith being correlated with what? Righteousness and what? Uncircumcision. Do we not think Noah was righteous?
Mm-hmm.
Do we not think Shem was righteous?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't circumcised. Not in the foreskins of their flesh. But I guarantee what? They were circumcised here. In the heart of their mind. Okay. I was supposed to let you read it, wasn't it? Let's go over to Galatians. Let's go to Galatians, the 6th chapter. Yeah, we're going to do a little reading today. Galatians, the 6th chapter. Let's start at verse 1.
Brethren, Galatians 6, verse 1. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another burdens, and so fulfill the law of the Mashiach. For if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in one another, and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things. Be not deceived, Yahuwah is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in the well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. Ye see how large a letter I have written unto you with my own hand. As many as desire to make a fair show in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised, only lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of you.
Right there. He said, as many as desire to make a fair show in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised only, lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of Hamashiach. Go ahead.
For neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law.
For neither they themselves who what?
Are circumcised.
Who are circumcised keep the law. That's very important. Neither they who are circumcised keep the law. Go ahead.
But desire to have you circumcised.
But desire to have you circumcised.
That they may have esteem in your flesh.
That they may have esteem in your flesh. Go ahead.
But Yahuwah forbid that I should have esteem, save in the cross of Yahuwah, of the Mashiach, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. For Yahushua HaMashiach neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature.
Let me start reading that again right there.
For in...
Stop right there. Let me read. For in Hamashiach Yahusha, neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. Neither you being circumcised in the flesh, or you're not circumcised in the flesh. Neither one availeth anything in Hamashiach. The only thing that matters to him is that you are a renewed creature. And what renews your mind? What's a renewed creature? A renewed mind. A renewed mind is what?
Oh,
Circumcision of what?
Of the heart.
The heart. Because let me tell you something. I'm going to show you how important this is. Do you not know the nation of Yashra'al did something that a circumcised heart would never allow you to do?
Talking about the golden calf.
That's a part of it. A circumcised mind or heart, or a circumcised heart would never allow you to walk in continuous rebellion. It's impossible. Y'all out there in YouTube land, Facebook land, however you may be viewing this, listen to me say this one more time. Listen to me good. A circumcised heart will never allow you to walk in rebellion or continuous rebellion. It's impossible to be a rebellious people with a circumcised heart. It is impossible. It is impossible to walk in rebellion or be rebellious with a circumcised heart. But being circumcised in the flesh, when we read the history of the nation of Yashra'al, most of the time when you're reading in the scripture, where's the nation of Yashra'al? In captivity. Why is the nation of Yashra'al in captivity for most of its existence?
Because they're not circumcised in the mind.
Because of circumcision of the foreskin of their flesh. It does not do anything for your mind. It was only a token or a sign of a covenant. It became a sign or the interest or a right to inherit or enter into the land. That's why Joshua had to circumcise those that weren't going into the land, because of the inheritance that was promised to Abraham 400 years, 30 prior to that. Go ahead and read on.
6:16. Galatians 6:16. And as many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them, and mercy, and upon the Yashra'al, the Elohim of Yashra'al. For from henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of Yahushua Mashiach. Brethren, the grace of our Mashiach, Yahusha, be with your spirit. Amen.
Okay then. What did Shaul mean? Because that's deep what he said, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's talking about circumcision and being a new creature. He gives him a specific message. He said, and as many as walk according to this rule. What rule?
That being circumcised of the mind is greater than being circumcised of the flesh.
Yes, circumcised of the mind is being greater of the heart, is greater than being circumcised of the flesh. Yahuwah is looking for a new creature, a renewed mind. And he said, peace be on them and mercy and upon the Israel of Yahuwah. It said, from henceforth let no man trouble you. It said, from henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of what? Hamashiach Yahusha. What is Paul saying right there? He said, in my body I bear the marks of Hamashiach Yahusha.
Yahusha died for Yashra'al, so marks, the spear where he was, cut and poked, and
Yeah.
those are written upon our heart.
Well, you're right. You could have left it right there when you were saying how Yahushua, how he was beaten.
Meaning that we have to die also.
Right, but Paul was saying because of what he was teaching, he was also bearing the same marks of Yahushua, but not to that extreme like Hamashiach went through. Ain't no man went through that. How, they had tried to stone Paul. They tried to stone Paul. They stoned him about 5 or 6 times, didn't they? And he had lashes and beatings. Because of what? Because of the same message. Because of the message. Let's go and read, because this all taking us somewhere.
Where to?
Let's go over to Romans 25. Romans 25.
What chapter?
Romans 25?
Romans 1 was chapter 16.
Oh, finish 16 and we'll go to 25. You done with 16?
No, I'm saying Romans ends at
Like what chapter?
the chapter.
I said Romans 25.
What I'm saying is Romans only has 16 chapters.
I mean, I'm sorry, Romans the 2nd chapter, the 25th verse.
I'm moving around, right?
I mean, Romans the 2nd chapter, the 25th verse.
You have to extend it.
I don't know my glucose for that.
Romans chapter 2, verse 25. For circumcision verily profited if thou keep the law.
Stop right there. Now, I'm going to say this, and we're going to look at this. It said, for circumcision verily profited if thou keep the law. Go ahead.
But if thou be a lawbreaker, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision.
But if thou be a what?
Breaker of the law.
A breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made what?
Uncircumcision.
Uncircumcision. Go ahead.
Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law,
Therefore, if the uncircumcision keep the righteousness of the law,
shall not his uncircumcision be counted for circumcision?
shall not his uncircumcision be counted for what?
Circumcision.
Does that sound like a familiar priesthood? Was Abraham's uncircumcision counted for what? Righteousness. A circumcision. Go ahead.
And shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision doth transgress the law?
It said, and shall not uncircumcision, which is by nature, if it fulfill the law, if circumcision fulfill the law, judge thee, who by the letter and circumcision doth what? Transgress the law. For he that what? For he is not a what? Yahudim or Yehudi, for he is not a Jew, which is what?
One outwardly.
One outwardly. Neither is the uncircumcision, which is outward. Neither is the circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Yahudim or a Jew, which is one inwardly. And circumcision is that of the what?
Heart.
Circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of Elohim. Yehovah Elohim. Circumcision of the heart. Circumcision of the heart is what we're going for here. He said circumcision outwardly in the flesh does not what? Make you a Yahudim or Yehud. But one that is circumcised in the heart, he is. So one that is circumcised in the heart is a Jew. So what we need to look at right now, why is Paul's language like that? Why is he emphasizing Jew and not Israelite? Because Hamashiach, or I should say Apostle Shaul, just like Hamashiach, is battling the very same thing and the very same people. It's the Pharisee Jews, or the political ones in power, that holding on to a system that's not required anymore. They're the one who forcing circumcision. You don't find it strange that Hamashiach ministry not one time was it asking anybody to get circumcised in their flesh or get their foreskin circumcised. He did condemn them or say something to them about circumcision. He said, you talking about circumcision right here? He said, here it is. You're not even keeping the Sabbath, or you're not even keeping the law. You're doing this on the Shabbat, but you want to talk about circumcision. But see, that's what I'm saying. All that circumcision in the flesh, and they still walk in disobedience. You don't find it strange that the whole conversation is about circumcision of the heart? Because remember now, we said circumcision had become what under under Joshua? It had become reinstituted through Joshua, but it became a right for what? To get into the land, a land entrance. But what's going on with this picture when we're right here in Jerusalem? Is that their land? I don't think so.
They're under Roman captivity.
Because remember, Rome is doing what now? Ruling and occupying Jerusalem. And this is what the problem is. Why would Rome be ruling and occupying Jerusalem? I don't care about Rome having world dominance over all the other nations. Why shouldn't they have had domination over Yashra'al? What had happened with Yashra'al now that puts them in a position where an occupying force has allowed them to stay in the land, but they're occupying them? Disobedience and rebellion, sin. All that talk of circumcision, another nation is in your land ruling over you. And that's not supposed to be. If you're walking in obedience. If you're walking in obedience. Circumcision was a right to enter the land. They never kept the covenant. They always broke it. So now, since it's a right to enter the land, since you're in disobedience and rebellion, you don't get to keep the land. Matter of fact, we were so wicked with all this foreskin cutting, with the Most High was so glad to get us out of that land. He said even the land is going to rejoice. It's going to enjoy its Sabbath. Let your ass out of there. Go ahead, go T.
Because wasn't it similar to people already having their sacrifice ready for when they do a sin? So
Because they knew they give.
Right.
They had had sacrificing lambs already ready to be sacrificed. And because, presumptuous stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can go out and do this because I know atonement is coming. I can sacrifice this lamb and we're going to be forgiven. That's what the nation of Yashra'al were doing. They would live just wickedly all year long because they knew there was an atonement to come. Yeah, prepaid sin. Prepaid sin. And so you got to know why and understand. That's why I always tell you, pay attention to the language of the speaker or what's being spoken. There's a reason why he keeps pointing out the Jews being a Jew inwardly or a Jew outwardly. Because you got the Pharisees, they're the only one pushing this circumcision of the flesh. But do y'all not see here Apostle Shaul, the language is totally opposite of that, or opposition to that? And I don't think there was a person in the land other than who taught Apostle Shaul that knew Torah any better than Apostle Shaul. So you know the first thing he would have been teaching or telling the people is what? Circumcise yourself in the flesh. If he knew it was that important because of this covenant. Because remember, Apostle Shaul's whole ministry and teaching is to the Gentiles, and it's about this new covenant relationship, or this covenant relationship that they were going to be brought back into. If circumcision was the sign of it, which it is, he's been teaching what? Circumcision. And his message is very strongly circumcision. But it's not the circumcision that people want to hear. There's not a person in this book teach circumcision any more than Apostle Shaul. And he's right. Circumcision is the key to the covenant. It's the entrance into the covenant. You can't get in this covenant any other way by what? Than by circumcision. But which circumcision is it? Yeah, circumcision of the heart. That's what we started out with the scripture. What it said? Told Israel. Just a circumcised with what? The very first scripture we read, that was Old Testament. And he told them what?
Circumcised of the heart.
Circumcise and cut back the foreskin of your heart. The foreskin of your heart. Because what's the one thing the Most High never had from Israel? Their heart. From the beginning of the book all the way to the death of Mashiach and even afterwards. Even up to this very day. Israel has always what? Walked in disobedience. And the only way that's going to change is what? He has to circumcise their heart. Go ahead.
So with Abraham, the covenant, isn't that the covenant of faith?
Yes, covenant of faith.
So if we're going back to the covenant of faith, faith is things that's unseen. So if we live in temple, it would make sense that we circumcise in our heart because that's something you can't see. It's by your action.
Mm-hmm. The sign is tangible. Not the sign or the token is tangible. It's a tangible act to what? A promise that was made. Something that's spiritual. That manifested what? Naturally. We're going back to the original covenant under the Melchizedek order. And it was not by circumcision. The blessing, y'all don't find it strange that Israel did not circumcise for 40 years in the wilderness? But yet, their clothes never wore out, just like he promised. Nobody overtook them, just like he promised. Did y'all know how many miracles he worked for Israel in the wilderness?
Mm-hmm. The water.
In disobedience, right?
Yeah.
Uncircumcised. Why did he do all of those things? Because it was based upon the promise to Abraham. You remember the scripture we read earlier? It said, for if the promise was what? By law? But the promise was not by law. It had nothing to do with the law. Now all of a sudden, it's written in law stating that what? You circumcised on the 8th day. It was based upon the promise he made with Abraham. 430 years. When? Prior to Israel entered into covenant at Sinai. Let's go. Where did we stop at on Soma? Did we get down to Romans 2 and 29? Did we get that?
Yeah, we finished. You read the rest of it.
Oh, okay. Let's go to Let's go to Philippians 3, the 3rd chapter.
chapter? Or third chapter?
Third chapter,
Third,
first.
Third
okay,
chapter.
gotcha. Philippians 3:1. Finally, my brethren, rejoice in Yahuwah. To write the same things to you, to me indeed is not grievous, but for you it is safe. Beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, beware of the concision. For we are the circumcision which worship Elohim in the spirit and rejoice in Yahuwah HaMashiach, and have no confidence in the flesh.
Start right there. Now go back up there. Listen to his conversation and dialogue before he get into that third verse.
Finally, my brethren, rejoice in Yahuwah. To write the same things to you, to me indeed is not grievous, but for you it is safe.
He said to write the same thing to you is what?
To me is indeed not grievous, but for you it is safe.
Writing this to you is not a burden, or it's not grievous to me, but for you it is safe. Paul is warning the people, and he has to keep warning them about something, because apparently there's something on the rise, there's something on the scene that's going on, and he's trying to guard them from it. And listen to what he says next.
Beware of dogs.
Beware of dogs.
Beware of evil workers.
Beware of evil workers.
Beware of concision.
Say it again.
Beware of the concision.
Beware of the concision.
For we are the circumcision,
For we are the circumcision,
which worship Elohim in the spirit.
which worship Elohim in the what?
Spirit.
In the spirit of the Ruach.
And rejoice in Yahuwah HaMashiach.
And we rejoice what?
In Yahuwah HaMashiach.
We rejoice.
Yahushua HaMashiach.
Yahusha HaMashiach.
And have no confidence in the flesh.
And we have no confidence in the flesh.
Though I might also have the confidence in the flesh, if any other man thinketh that he hath whereof he might trust in the flesh, I more, circumcised the 8th day, of the stock of Yashra'al, of the tribe of Benjamin, and Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee.
So Apostle Shaul was what? A Pharisee. So you know he knew the law. Let me tell you something. He knew the laws backwards and forwards, front and backwards, literally.
Concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteous which is in the law, blameless. But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for HaMashiach. Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Yahushua HaMashiach, my Elohim, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Yahushua HaMashiach, and be found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Yahushua HaMashiach.
Stop right there. Read that verse again.
And found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law.
Not having my own righteousness, which is what?
Of the law.
Of the law.
But that which is through the faith of Yahushua HaMashiach.
But that which is through the faith of who?
Yahushua HaMashiach.
Yahushua HaMashiach.
The righteousness which is of Elohim by faith.
The righteousness which is of Elohim by faith.
That I may know him.
That I might know him.
And the power of his resurrection.
And the power of what?
His resurrection. And the fellowship of his sufferings. Being made conformable unto his death. If by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead.
Stop right there. All of this conversation and dialogue is stems from what? Circumcision. But you notice he said, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin, the stock of Benjamin, Hebrew. A toucher of the law, a Pharisee. Why do you think they were always after Shaul? To persecute him, to beat him, to stone him.
Because he was a Pharisee.
He knew the law better than anybody. But what was he teaching? He was totally against circumcision in the flesh.
Which was opposite of what the Pharisees.
Which was very opposite, totally opposite of what the Pharisees believed.
Keep it real. Keep it real.
Yeah, he kept it real.
You see, they put the word dung there, they let you know what
Exactly. Exactly. And so what you see, Apostle Shaul, you see him circumcise Timothy. But when you go back and read that particular verse of scripture, what does it say? He did it to appease or please the Jews. He would have never done if he would have been antagonized by them or took it upon himself to force Timothy or make him go circumcise in the flesh. Tell you, Paul was a Hebrew of Hebrews. Didn't nobody want to mess with him when it came to the Torah. On the law, he knew better. But I keep telling people, that ride going through Damascus, and I know Damascus is where the Qumran community was. But let me tell you something. And this is why we're going to have to do a study on the Qumran community. Because y'all have heard me say it too many times. We put a lot of stock in the Qumran community. Yes, they had their beliefs. They believed in Hamashiach, and as well as what they believed, the law. But y'all don't hear Paul's conversation when it comes to the law. Why does his conversation seem like it opposes or is strongly against the law?
Because it's going against the law of the Pharisees.
Is it going against the old law, or the whole law, I should say? Or that a certain portion of the law? Because a lot of stuff, the mistake is because when we speak about the law, a lot of stuff in the law is cultural. It's just a part of our culture. And what you have to realize, Qumran was a community. They used the law as legislation to govern what? The people of the community. So what you have when it comes to Apostle Shaul, he's not trying to allow those or let those do what? Get bogged down by all of these different laws and stuff which are going around Jerusalem. Now all of a sudden begin to burden these people who are trying to return or come back to the Father. That's what his whole emphasis and Hamashiach entire emphasis teaching the people. What did he tell them? He said, no man comes to the Father but by me. Go ahead.
How many different groups they had around that time? You had Pharisees, the Sadducees, you had the Essenes, who else?
The Essenes, you had the Ebionites, you had oh man, it was
not.
I got a book.
Sadducees?
Yeah, you had Sadducees, yeah. You're right. I got a book that goes through all these different sects that was surrounding Jerusalem. You had so much stuff they were bringing in, all these different beliefs.
I always said beware of dogs. That's why he said beware of dogs.
Yeah, there's a beware of dogs. You got all of these people and all these different teachers, a lot of stuff that they instituted on their own. But I love the Qumran community and what they were doing as a people to govern their community. But I'm trying to get people to look at it. When you look at Apostle Shaul's message versus what's going on in the Qumran community, you got two different things going on. Now you can't serve two masters. Either you're going to love one or hate the other. And that's where Israel get into a problem at. We try to serve too many masters.
Were they added to the law? That's what they were doing?
Oh yeah, they were added to the law.
They were added to the law, they were doing rituals. And
Right, and that's why Hamashiach, whenever they accuse him of breaking the law, what he will say?
which law?
As it is written, he will always answer them and refute and debunk what they were saying with the same law. Because what they were accusing him of, it was nowhere written in law. This was their stuff they had added to the law and began to burden the people with. But we're going to do a little more reading. Let's go over now to, let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. The 7th chapter. Let's start at let's start at the 17th verse. 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter and the 17th verse.
1 Corinthians 7:17. But as Yahuwah hath distributed to every man, as Elohim hath called every one, so let him walk, and so ordained I in all churches. Is any man being called circumcised?
If any man being called circumcised,
let him not become uncircumcised.
let him not become uncircumcised.
If any man is called an uncircumcised,
If any man is what? Called uncircumcised,
let him be called circumcised. Let him not become
let
circumcised.
him not be called circumcised.
Circumcision is nothing.
Stop right there. This is Apostle Shaul. I want y'all to look at that monitor, whatever you view me on, look me dead in my mouth. Circumcision is nothing. And uncircumcision is nothing. But the keeping of the commandments of Yahuwah Elohim. Keep going.
Let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. Art thou being a servant, care not for it, but if thou mayest be made free, use it rather. For he that is called in Yahuwah being a servant is Yahuwah's freeman. Likewise, also he that is called being free is Yahuwah's servant. Ye are bought with a price. Be not ye the servants of men? Brethren, let every man wherein he is called therein abide with Elohim.
Because what we see here is, it said circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing, but keeping the commandments of Yahuwah thy Elohim. What were the commandments of Yahuwah thy Elohim?
The 10.
It was the 10. Is that what he not called Moses up on Sinai and gave him? The actual book of the covenant? The book of the covenant. It came with instructions. Go ahead, let's go to Galatians, the 5th chapter. Let's go to Galatians 5.
First.
Yeah, we're going to start at the first verse.
Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ or wherewith Yahushua.
And stop right there. Because remember, Apostle Shaul just said something. That in the last books we read, he said circumcision is of nothing, and he said uncircumcision is nothing. He said, but keeping what?
The commandments.
The commandments of Elohim. Now let's see what he said right here in Galatians.
Galatians 5 and 1. Stand fast, Therefore, in the liberty wherewith Yahushua HaMashiach hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Behold, I, Paul, say unto you, that if ye be circumcised, the Mashiach shall profit you nothing. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law. The Mashiach is become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. For we through the Ruach wait for the hope of the righteousness by faith. For in Yahushua HaMashiach neither circumcision availeth anything.
For in Hamashiach Yahushua neither circumcision availeth anything,
Nor uncircumcision.
Nor uncircumcision.
But by faith.
But faith which worketh by love. Now, because remember, we just read up above that he said, circumcision shall profit you nothing. And it said, to every man that is circumcised, that he is what? A debtor to do the whole law. This is why he started off by saying what? Be ye not entangled with the yoke of bondage anymore. Oh, y'all read the same thing that I'm reading?
Yes, sir.
I'm making up against something that, I'm seeing something that's not written. Go ahead.
Ye did run well. Who did hinder you, that ye should not obey the truth? This persuasion cometh not of him that calleth you. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. I have confidence in you through Yahuwah that ye will be none otherwise minded. But he that troubleth you shall bear his judgment, whosoever he be. And I, brethren, if I yet preach circumcision, why do I yet suffer persecution?
Stop right there. He said, why I, brethren? He said, if I preach circumcision, he said, why am I still getting the hell knocked out of me with all these stones and boulders? Y'all going upside my head with these rocks, y'all beat me. He said, why is that happening when preaching circumcision? He's talking about his circumcision is a different circumcision. It's about circumcision of the heart. Let's look at Galatians, the 6th chapter.
Verse.
Let me see where I want to start here. Let's start at the 11th verse. Galatians 6 and 11.
Galatians 6 and 11. Ye see how large a letter I have written unto you with mine own hand. As many as desire to make a fair shew in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised.
Stop right there. He said, as many as desire to make a fair show in the flesh, they constrain you what?
To be circumcised.
To be circumcised. Keep going.
Only lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of Yahushua HaMashiach. For neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law, but desire to have you circumcised, that they may glory in your flesh. But Yahuwah forbid that I should glory, save in the cross for our Elohim, Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. For in Yahushua HaMashiach neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. And as many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them, and mercy, and upon Yashra'al of Aliyahu. For henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear my body the marks of Yahushua HaMashiach. Brethren, the grace of Yahushua HaMashiach be with your Ruach.
Okay, stop right there. That's good right there. Now we see. Now I keep telling people, Paul. 30. Okay, I'll be done for that. Apostle Shaw's message is very strong. He's not teaching or saying not to circumcise. His message, his thought is circumcise your heart, which makes you a new creature. What makes you what? Obedient. Y'all don't find it strange when the Most High, in Jeremiah, when he said, I shall make a new covenant with the house of Judah and the house of Israel? What did he say? He said he's going to put his laws in their what? In their inward part. He's going to write it upon their what? Upon their heart. What laws were he talking about putting in their inward part? Was he talking about those that came after transgression of the building of the golden calf? Or he's talking about the actual covenant or the book of the covenant, those laws that were written on there?
Book of the Covenant, 10.
Those are the ones they transgressed. Did he not tell them to not have no Elohim before him?
Yes.
And no sooner than he entered into covenant with them, Moses come down with the covenant. What had they done?
Built a giant golden calf.
They had started thawing just that quick. I mean, just that quick. I mean, just that quick. That's when he's writing on the table of their heart. The book of the covenant, not the book of the law. And until we, as Yashra'al, be able to separate the two, that's the one thing. This is why we can't understand what's going on here. We have not been able to separate the book of the covenant from the book of the law. And it causes you always to want to hold on to the book of the law. When he told you the law was what? To be a schoolmaster and a teacher or a tutor? Until when? Until the seed of the promise should come. To Yahushua HaMashiach, till he would come. It was to teach it. Everything they did was to teach of him and show them him for when he came. That's what I said. If you think this promise is by law, you got another thing coming. The promise was of the inheritance was by promise, by faith. Y'all don't know every time we read about circumcision of the heart, you get that same word, faith. Every time we keep talking about circumcision of the heart, faith. All the way going back to Abraham. Abraham's faith. Circumcision of the heart, faith, righteousness. But you know, every time it talks about circumcision of the flesh, circumcision of the foreskin or the flesh, what's the word associated with it? Unrighteousness, law. Why? HaMashiach came to do something. He came back to bring us back under the Melchizedek order. The Melchizedek priesthood. Remember, he said Israel would be a nation, or there would be a kingdom, a nation, a kingdom of priests. Was that going to be under the Levitical order? Or is that to be under the Melchizedek order? When he told Abraham that, it was under the Melchizedek. Because that's what Israel is supposed to be. We are a Melchizedek priesthood. And Abraham was our first example and pattern how we would become that. It is through the faith and the righteousness of Elohim. Through circumcision of the heart.
Because there was no such thing as a Levitical order.
There was no such thing as Levitical priesthood at the time. That's why Melchizedek met him with a covenant meal. He blessed him and gave him those promises when he was uncircumcised. Under that priesthood, you got a priest who comes to bless the individual. And he meets them with a covenant meal. You don't find it strange after Hamashiach sheds his blood, just like those animals shed their blood, when it said the curtain was rent in two? It wasn't talking about the veil in the temple. His flesh was rent and torn in two, that his blood may be shed. He was the veil that was rented. And you got to go through that blood. You got to go through him. He said, no man comes to the Father but by me. No man can enter into covenant relationship with the Father. They have to go through who? Hamashiach. But how are the Yahudim the Pharisees trying to do it? Through circumcision. That's why that whole talk is about circumcision. Because circumcision was attached to a covenant they broke.
That was a good statement. Because the veil represents the covering.
Right.
He was our covering.
He was our covering. What was behind that veil that no man could go behind it? It was the holies of holies, the set apart of them. You know what I'm saying? And who dwelled there? The Father. He dwelt between the wings of the cherubs. The cherubs that sat on what? The mercy seat. And it's through Yahushua that we're able to enter into his presence as a Melchizedek priest. We all have right to enter into and stand before Yahuwah. But it's only through Hamashiach that we're allowed to do this. We have to go through him. Our faith has to be in him and his righteousness. Not our very own righteousness or outwardly fleshly righteousness or so-called righteousness. It won't do the job. It won't allow us in. We cannot get in through that. And with that. And that's what we have to see. Hamashiach death was about that, the Melchizedek order. That priesthood, which will be the priesthood that the nation of Yashra'al is.
And that's the priesthood that's the priesthood that we'll go back to, correct?
The Melchizedek priesthood, that's what we're going back to. That's why he walked the pieces by himself. Because he would pay the price that would permit us to be able to come back to the Father. But the thing about it, we have to be willing to go, and we're going to go. Even if I have to grab you by the ankles and pull you back to the Melchizedek order. We're going. Because if you don't go, you won't be able to make it. How else are you going to get there? The flesh will not do it.
Yeah, I see why he was from an old congregation we went to, man. Do you know how many people missed the Passover because they told they couldn't take the Passover because they weren't circumcised?
Yep, they missed the Passover because they weren't circumcised.
Yeah, a lot of grown men that was crying.
And here you got to read the same book where they went 40 years without being circumcised.
Yep.
And were keeping the Passover.
And they want 4,000 to get circumcised.
Yep.
That's the problem.
But you're right, we have to be circumcised. In the heart. Now, which one is more righteous? Me partaking in Pesach with a circumcised heart, than you being a partaker of Pesach with a, what do you take Israel, their heart was black as sun? But they taking all these paths. That foreskin been cut down. But you just walking in rebellion. But you hear Pesach. That's why they were never allowed to be in the land. And I don't understand why we can't see it. We sitting up here in captivity with all this foreskin trimmed and cut, and still as slaves in rebellion. Dumb as hell. All the time he was after your heart. Let's go look at I would say about two more places. Let's go over to Hebrews, the 7th chapter. Hebrews, the 7th chapter. Let's start at verse 1.
The second or seventh?
7.
Hebrews 7:1. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High Elohim, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings, and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made unto the son of Elohim abide a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the 10th of the spoils. And very they that are the sons of Levi, who receive the office of priesthood, have a commandment to take these tithes of the people according to the law, that is of their brethren, though they come out of the lines of Abraham. But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham, and blessed him that he had the promises. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. And here men that die receive tithes, but there he receiveth them, of whom it is witness that he liveth. And as I may say so, Levi also, who receiveth these tithes, paid tithes in Abraham. For he has yet in the loins of his father, when Melchizedek met him. Continue. If their perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should arise after the order of the Melchizedek?
Okay, then go back up to 11, start again.
If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood,
If therefore perfection was by the Levitical priesthood,
for under it the people received the law,
for under the Levites the people received the law. What did they have before the Levites?
the Melchizedek order, or
What did they receive before they received the law? The book of the covenant. Now read that again.
if therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood,
If perfection was by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law.
what further need was there that another priest should arise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron?
Okay, then so if the Levites were perfect, or if that priesthood was perfect, it said, well, what need would there be to be for another priest? So if the Levite or the Levitical order wasn't perfect, what does that tell you? And if there was a need for another,
Then it was perfect.
I mean, it wasn't perfect and that it was only supposed to be what? Temporal or temporary. Go ahead. Because under the Levites, the people received the law. under the Melchizedek, they received the book of the covenant.
Hebrews 7:12. For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law.
If the priesthood what?
Being changed.
Being changed, there also be what?
A necessity of a
That
change.
there was a necessity that the what?
Change also of the law.
That need to be a change in the law.
For he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar.
Okay, then he said to what? But what did he say for then?
For he whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe.
He said, for he who these things are spoken, talking about another priest, another priesthood, they're not even other tribe of Levi. Or he's not even other tribe of Levi. Not the man who these things pertaining to are spoken of. Go ahead.
And yet it is far more evident, for that after the similitude of Melchizedek, there arises another priest. Wait, no, I skipped something.
You sure did.
I skipped 14. For it is evident that our Yahuwah.
Yeah, start back at 13.
Okay. For he whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. For it is evident that our Yahuwah sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. And it is yet far more evident for that altar the similitude of For that after the similitude of the Melchizedek there arise another priest, who is made not after the law of carnal commandment.
Okay, this priest here is not made after what?
A carnal commandment.
The law of carnal commandments.
But after the power of an endless life.
But after the power of an endless life.
Did
the law give you power of an endless life?
No.
Because what was attached to the law?
Death.
Death. Since there was a change in the priesthood, there needed to be a change in the law. Go ahead.
For he testified, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. For there is verily a disannulling of the commandment, going before the weakness and unprofitableness thereof. For the law made nothing perfect, but bring in of a better hope did, by the which we draw nigh unto you. And inasmuch as not without an oath he was made a priest. For those priests were made without an oath, but this with an oath by him that said unto him, Yahuwah swear and will not repent, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. By so much was Yashra'al made a surety of a better testament, and they truly were many priests, because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death. But this man, because he continueth ever, hath an unchangeable priesthood. Whoever he is able also to save them to the utmost that come unto Yahuwah by him, seeing he ever lieth to make it intercession for them. For such an high priest became us, who is set apart, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens, who needed not daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people's. For this he did once, when he offered up himself.
So for this he did what?
Once.
Once, when he offered up himself.
For the law maketh men high priests, which have infirmity, but the word of the oath, which was since the law, maketh the Son, who is consecrated forevermore.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
we are going to stop right there, and we shall pick this back up next Shabbat. Yes, next Shabbat, and we're going to continue with this teaching on circumcision. Now, all of it is still a part of the Isaiah 53 teaching, the Lamb. And you'll see how and how big of a part circumcision plays into this teaching, even in Isaiah 53. All of this stuff goes together. The Lamb is the whole focal point of everything we read about in Scripture. That's what we started out. We started out in Bereshit, in the Garden of Eden, or Eden, and we move forward, and we see how everything is still focused on that Lamb. Even circumcision goes back to that Lamb, because it was this Lamb who walked those pieces. The same one is this Lamb that what bring us back into covenant relationship with the Father. So at this time, I'm just going to open the floor up for questions, and we will have those questions or comments, and then we will adjourn. Any questions? Anything anyone doesn't understand up until this point? Because I'm going to say this. Remember, circumcision is always required of Israel. It's up to Israel to read and understand which circumcision is required. Being that we're under a new covenant.
Say, obey my voice.
Yep. Is it circumcision of the heart he's looking for? Or is it circumcision of the foreskin of our flesh? Our heart. So if there's not any questions, like I said, we'll continue this teaching next Shabbat and look a little deeper into it. And at this time, we are going to stand and we are going to face the east and look towards Jerusalem. And Aliyahu is going to pray us out.
Made a lot of good points and showed the differences.
Thank you.
The flesh is entering to the land versus circumcision of the heart.
Right.
Aliyahu, thank you once again for bringing us together. Thank you for the lesson that you gave and you spoke to through our Moreh Aliyahu. Once again, we come before your throne, give you thanks and all the esteem for another set apart Shabbat. We ask that the lesson truly marinate through all of us, and that we all have the understanding, and just giving you thanks and all esteem for keeping us through the week, keeping us throughout the day. We do send prayers out for one of our keys,